All right, so Luke chapter 16, lesson 55. Two parables Jesus teaches about riches. So the first one is in verses 1, and we'll read through 9 here. Let's see what this parable is teaching us. So, he said unto his disciples, so Jesus is speaking to his disciples. There was a certain rich man which had a steward, and the same was accused unto him that he wasted his goods. And he called him, and said unto him, How is it that I hear this of thee? Give an account of thy stewardship, for thou mayest be no longer steward. Then the steward said within himself, What shall I do? For my Lord taketh away from me my stewardship. I cannot dig. To beg, I am ashamed. I am resolved what to do, that, when I am put out of the stewardship, they may receive me into their houses. So he called every one of his Lord's debtors unto him, and said unto the first, How much owest thou unto my Lord? And he said, 100 measures of oil. And he said unto him, Take thy bill, and sit down, and write 50. Then said he to another, And how much owest thou? And he said, 100 measures of wheat. He said unto him, Take thy bill, and write 80. The Lord commended the unjust steward, because he had done wisely. For the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light. And I say unto you, Make to yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, that, when ye fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitations. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much, and he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much. If therefore ye have not been faithful in the unrighteous mammon, who will commit to your trust the true riches? And if ye have not been faithful in that which is another man's, who shall give you that which is your own? No servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. So here we have this story of this steward. What's a steward like, do you think here? What's in your mind? What's a steward? You've got a Lord and a steward. What do you think the steward is here? Faith? Some type of servant who worked in the household. Maybe like a butler, some people might say. Right? And he cares for everything that's in the Lord's house. And it appears that this steward also has care over his master's financial accounts. A lot of trust is placed in the steward. But when the Lord checks in, and maybe goes through the books at night to see where things are going and where money is moving around, maybe notices some things are off. What does he do to his steward? What does he bring him in for? Jesse? No, not yet. That's a little bit different. Not for his debts. What does the Lord bring in the steward over? What does he call him into his office to talk about? Garrett? You're wasting things. Maybe he's stealing a little bit, or he's not properly accounting for everything. He's no longer being a wise steward of his master's goods. His master has entrusted him with things, and instead he has wasted them, not used them properly. So then the steward now knows he's going to be fired. That's it. We don't know exactly here, or at least it's not apparent to me. Are we doing a little flashback here and we're going back in time? Or did the master tell the steward, you've got a couple of days and then you've got to be out of here. I'm going to find someone else to run my household. Either way, the steward thinks to himself, well, now what am I going to do for work? What's one thing he can't do, he says. What can't he do? Kenton? Can't dig. What is that a picture of? I can't dig. That's kind of a broad general theme here. What is the man saying about himself? What type of work can't he do? Logan? hard physical labor. He's not a man built or conditioned for hard physical labor. Being a builder, being a farmer, being a mason, those things are out for him. And what won't he do? What does he refuse to do because he's too proud, Megan? What does he refuse to do? I can't dig, and I won't do this, Megan. Yeah, I won't go out and beg, ask people for money. So there's a plan that he has all together here. And that is, he wants to get others on his side, to be friendly to him, so that when he is without a home or without a place, others will care for him because he cared for them. It's a great plan. Okay. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Golden rule. Be kind to others and they'll probably be kind to you. If you are known as a man who will go out of his way to do anything for a person, or if you're known as a woman who will go out of her way to help someone out in any situation, I can call them up at any time, people say, and that so-and-so person will come to my aid. They will bring some things over if I'm short a few eggs. Or if all of a sudden a family emergency comes up and I need someone to watch my children. Okay. My car broke down and I need to get to an important appointment, and they'll let me borrow their vehicle. That kind of person is very trustworthy. Okay. Because of that trust, you will return the same thing to them. Well, if they call me, I'll make sure I do that back to them because they always do it for me. That's what the steward is setting up here. So what does he do? He calls in people who owe money to his master. The first man comes in and says, I owe what? What does the first man that comes in here owe? He owes, the Bible gives us here, what does he owe him? What does it say there? Look in chapter 16. What does it say? Garrett. Oil. The first man owes 100 measures of oil, and the steward says, well, here's a deal. How much does he have to pay, Micah? What does it say there? No, that's the wheat. 50 what? What do you got to pay back? 50 what? Measures of oil. Sure you're following along. 50 measures of oil. Well, that's a pretty good deal. Well, you'd be thankful if you owed someone $100 and they said, well, you know what? Today, just give me 50 back. That's good enough. I just saved $50. Well, what a nice person. I'll make sure the next time, I'm doing something to that person, they say, oh man, I got $5. I'll be able to pay that for you. No problem. You're more than willing to help them out because of the great deed they've done for you. The next servant comes in, and what does he owe? What does the next guy come in and owe? Emma? 100 measures of wheat. And how much wheat does he have to pay back? Megan? What's 4 score? 4 score measures of wheat. What is that? Faith? 80. Good. 4 score is 20, so 4 score will be 80. So he owes 80, or he pays back again. He's going to be thankful. So now, when the steward is kicked out of the house and he's gone, now he needs a place to live or someone to feed him. He knows he can go and knock on these people's door and say, I need some help here. I've got no place to stay. I'm out of food. Oh, well, come in. I remember the time you helped me out and only made me pack half as much. I'll make sure I can take care of you here a few days till maybe the steward can get on his feet. And so in the parable here, the Lord, who obviously is a picture of God, finds this out, probably not happy with it, but at the same time, he compliments the steward in saying, you're a pretty cunning and wise and smart man that you've done this. Okay? then we get that line in there, and I asked you a question about that. Okay? Make to yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness. You got to know what mammon is. What is mammon? Cannot serve God and mammon. What's mammon? Kenton? Could be men, could be other things too. Micah? Riches, so it could be money, faith, earthly things. Okay, anything else. You cannot serve God and mammon. So it could be men that you serve. You worship sports figures, music figures, movie stars. Might be money or riches you worship. I'll do everything I can to make an extra $100 this week, even if it means I have to work on the Sabbath, or even if it means I forget my family and don't care about them. Or I worship goods, things. I always want this and I always want that, and I'll do whatever I can to get it. So here we're told in the Bible, those are mammon of unrighteousness. So those are those wicked things that we just talked about. And the Bible says to be faithful. Make yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness. Now, doesn't that seem counterintuitive? Doesn't that seem the opposite of what we've preached all year long? So what exactly is Jesus saying there then? What is he saying? How can we be friends with the mammon of unrighteousness? Or how can we be faithful with the mammon of unrighteousness? How can you do that? Maybe not so much now, but as you grow older, get into high school and get a job, and you start getting a nice paycheck, and you go on to college or get out in the workplace and you get an even nicer paycheck, a larger one. What does that mean? What is Jesus teaching us here? Faith?
We should help others.
Yeah.
Don't serve money.
Okay. But how can I be friends with the mammon of unrighteousness? What does that mean? We just said what the mammon of unrighteousness is. How can I be friends with it? Let's focus on the mammon of unrighteousness, mammon being money. Let's focus on that. Okay, let's not worry about the people or things. How can I be friends of money? What does that mean I need to do with it? What do you think, Kimberly? Spend it wisely, right? Not on stuff you don't need, just like we heard in the sermon on Sunday. All that we have is God's. Everything. Everything in this classroom. We look around every book, every table, clothing, everything is God's. Okay? Ready? Kenton over there? Just whatever you're organizing or doing, just worry about it later. Everything that we have is God's. So to be friends with the mammon of unrighteousness, I have to have money. I can't say, I won't take any money because it leads to trouble. No, I have to take money to care for God's kingdom. That means I'm going to own things. It means I'm going to interact with people. But I do it in a proper, godly way that God has set forth in the Bible. I take care of them, like Kimberly said. I don't waste them. I don't waste my money on things I might not need. Okay? So, that's how we can be faithful in with the mammon of unrighteousness. So, yes, most frequently when you hear the word mammon, money is probably the most popular. If we ask people, what does mammon mean? Most people would say money. A lot of other people would say probably things, earthly possessions. Now, you cannot serve God and mammon. That's the point there. All right, so that's the mammon of this earth. How will you use it? Well, you should use it. How will you use the mammon of unrighteousness? So you go to work. You get a paycheck at the end of the week. What do you do with it? Geikler had a nice example there in the sermon. What's the first thing you should do with it? Garrett?
Save a little bit of it for the collection.
Take out a portion of it. This amount right here, before I spend anything, goes to church. So you're working for farmer, you're working delivering newspapers, you're working babysitting, whatever, it doesn't matter. First thing you do is take out some money and write out the checks to the church, or in your case, you're not going to have checks. Take out $5 or $10, and that's going to church. Okay? Take out a little bit of money to help the poor. Okay? All that you have is from God, and that's what is being taught here. So that's how you will do that as you grow up, and then you use it for the church. Like you wisely had said the other day, you give until you hurt. All right, and then we have the parable of the rich man and Lazarus here, so let's read through that. Okay? Starting at verse 19. There was a rich man, which was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fared sumptuously every day. There was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate full of sores, and desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. And in hell he lift up his eyes, being in torments, and seeth Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus, that he may dip the tip of his finger in water, cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. But Abraham said, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receivest thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things. But now he is comforted, and thou art tormented. Beside all this, between us and you there is a great gulf fixed, so that they which would pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from thence. Then he said, I pray thee therefore, Father, that thou wouldest send him, meaning Lazarus, to my father's house, for I have 5 brethren, that he may testify unto them, lest they also come into this place of torment. Abraham saith unto him, They have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. And he said, Nay, Father Abraham, but if one went unto them from the dead, they will repent. And he said unto them, If they hear not Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rose from the dead. So there's the rich man in his beautiful house, and Lazarus sitting out in the street. And every day that rich man has to go past Lazarus and see him. He never stops to give him a morsel of bread. Never stops. The parable here is not that there's anything wrong with being rich. Wealthy and riches has its many temptations, without a doubt, and struggles. It can be hard for the Christian to be rich, but there is nothing wrong with being wealthy and rich. That's not the rich man's sin here. What is his sin? Very similar to the man with the big barns, or who wanted to build them. What is Lazarus' sin? Or not Lazarus, sorry, Jennifer, a rich man, what's his sin? He was keeping it all for himself. There is a man put in his way who's a beggar. God placed him out by the gate of the rich man, and he never would stop and help Lazarus. Lazarus had a true treasure in his heart. That was faith and love for God. So now they are die, and off into heaven and hell goes each of them. The rich man obviously desires, he can, in this parable here, in a picture, he can see over, there he sees Abraham holding Lazarus in his bosom, caring for him so that he's no longer wounded, he's no longer tormented. Now this man being tormented in hell just wants one drop of water on his tongue to alleviate the heat and the thirst and the pain and the suffering. And Abraham says, no, there's no way. No one can go between heaven and hell. Okay? Hopefully this would cement in the minds of Catholics there is no such thing as a purgatory. One goes to heaven or hell immediately. But here what we see instead, then he says, wow, I've got 5 brothers and I don't want them to come here with me. Man, this place is full of pain and suffering. Send Lazarus back to them, because if somebody comes back from the dead, they will most certainly believe. I can tell you if that miraculous of a thing happened. A miraculous thing. That's what Jesus has been doing all along. Miracle, 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 miracle. And now in the parable, Jesus says to teach about that topic. He says, yes, Father Abraham said back to the rich man, I can send Moses and the prophets. I can send people back from the dead. They won't believe because they already have Moses and the prophets. They don't need more miracles. Obviously, that's a picture of the Pharisees. Jesus on earth did miracle, 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 miracle. Many people saw the miracles, but many did not believe. So that even if another miracle is done, it's not all of a sudden going to change their mind. Oh, that was the one that they needed. No. They have Moses and they have the law. That's enough. Or Moses and the prophets. And so Jesus teaches there. So those are a couple things for us to remember. First of all, in the first part here, let's not serve God and mammon, but let's make proper priorities of everything that God gives us. This is we heard wonderfully on Sunday in the sermon. But also, then let us remember to care for those who God places before us who are poor. Someone is missing something. Well, can I help you out? Okay, let's not laugh and scoff at them, or, well, I don't like them, so I'm not going to help them out. No, that's not the case. Okay? And also remember, the law and the prophets is enough. We don't need any more than that.